Welcome, YouTube. This is the newest PTR patch for Heroes of the Storm, released January 14th, 2026. We've been getting a lot of really awesome balance patches for HOTS. This is our newest one that just released yesterday. But yeah, we're doing a quick PTR patch. Just a reminder, we're not really going to go over the hot fixes as those aren't as interesting unless there's something specific to note. But we're going to go over this real quick. But welcome, everyone. Make sure that you guys do check out my Twitch stream. I'll be posting a link to that down below in the description. Check out my other YouTube videos as well. But let's get into it. This is our brand new PTR patch. These are some general changes. All quests that can lose stacks will never cause the player to fall below milestone thresholds, which is good, and which is how I thought it was already before. So that means that if you reach it, like the convection one, for example, you reach 20, the next one's 40, you're not going to lose those milestones, which is good. This is actually kind of a cool change. Pinnacle rewards are now being renamed Mythic rewards to give it a more Blizzard feel. That definitely makes sense. Obviously, call it Mythic, I guess. Does that mean they're going to rename the other one to Heroic Talents? The mid-tier ones to Heroic, because that would be very Blizzardy as well. But so Pinnacle Talents will now be called Mythic Talents. And this is actually an interesting change. I'm not too sure how I feel about it yet. But the following summon units now lose health each second. The demon, Asmo's demons will lose it. The Gargantuan from Nazebo, Hydralisk roaches from Zagara, rocket turrets from Gazlo, rush zombies from Nazebo, scarabs from Anubrak, Trents from Malfurion, creep tumors from Zagara, and water elemental from Jaina. I'm impressed that I actually knew all those. And as you guys are going to learn from some of the later ones, they're actually getting rid of the duration of them. So it's strictly going to be based on their health for at least a lot of these that I've read about so far. We'll see if that's the case for every single one of them, but I know for at least Asmo that's the case. So we'll see if that's the case for everything as we get to it. But that's going to be a big change for these, that they lose health over time instead of just expiring. Structures now prioritize summon units when there are no remaining minions. That's going to be really good for split pushing people like Asmo, like Zagara, which is actually not necessarily what we needed, but that is going to be what it's used for. Summon units no longer take half damage from structures, so actually that's a way to kind of nullify it. Can't wait for tumors with plus 600 with Nidus upgrade. Yeah, so the Nidus upgrade means that they're going to be hard to kill. Now is my fear with those. We'll see if that becomes a problem. XP glow pickup sound is now also played when killing a minion that instantly yields XP. I have a lot of the sounds off, so I might not ever hear this, but maybe that's good. I feel like that's going to get annoying if you hear it every time you kill a minion. Updated home startup screen, which is obviously that's standard. So I like that. Map upgrades. This one I'm not too sure about. Watchtowers will now reset the neutral after 45 seconds of not being occupied. If that means watchtowers like the ones on Curse Hollow, I could see that on neutral watchtowers like Warhead Junction, where it's right in the middle. I don't think it should include ones that are on your side of the map, like Curse Hollow, for example. I'm wondering if it does include that one. I could see it for, easier camp steals, exactly. So this is going to be easier for camps to steal, for enemies to steal your camp. I could see this change for something, and I could see, I have to change that on my new computer. I could see that for changes involving like the mid-neutral point. I could see that being valuable there. I'm not the biggest fan of this change. Volskaya. Triggerlock Protector bonus damage and cooldown speed increased from 25% to 40 when two players are inside. So obviously they're just trying to do a buff to Volskaya. Recently, they did just take Volskaya out of ranked rotation. Obviously, we know it's going to be coming back at some point in time. So this is what they do in preparation for it. Warhead Junction, the burn display, the burn duration is now displayed on structures affected by Warhead. Just a little logistical change. Here are our balance updates. For Asmo, Summon Demon Warrior damage increased from 32 to 83, so almost triple its damage. Now deals half damage to heroes, so obviously split push. Will no longer have a duration, but lose 26 health every second, so that kind of ties back to the change up top, where it will lose health over time, but have no duration. No longer has Immolate, so this is a change I actually am sad about. I really like that change on on Asmo, or I really like that the immolation. I'm not a big fan of this change. It does kind of help you clear waves, but overall, I guess if he's doing more damage, it really doesn't matter. And he now has 2 charges, which is his level 4, which probably means I get rid of that. Globe of Annihilation, which I believe is his greed talent. Now deals 50% damage to non-heroes. I'll have to double check if that's greed, or if that's, because that's not gluttony. Now deals 50% damage to non-heroes upon reaching 225 annihilation. It no longer reduces damage to non-heroes, so that's pretty good. It's just his baseline Q. All right. So basically you can use it for wave clear. This talent will not be as good for wave clear until you finish it. But after you finish it, I guess it'll be pretty good. So that's a change for that. Wrath rework now provides 1 stack for every 2 basic attacks it hits against a structure or hero. I was told that this is a nerf. I don't remember what it was before because nobody picks Wrath. It is good that you can stack it off structures. Again, it just ties back to the split push. We'll have to kind of see how that goes. I'm not the biggest fan of some of these changes. Art of Chaos, I don't like this because I pick Art of Chaos. Extra Annihilation, reduce amount from 4 to 2. It's going to make it harder to stack. Bombardment, amount lasts reduced from 4 to 3 seconds. But hero needs to be below 70%. Yeah, that's true. So I guess they don't need to be below 70% anymore. But yeah, so overall, Asmo nerfs. Master of Destruction, amount of Annihilation reduced from 2 to 1. So yeah, they're just nerfing the level 7s across the board. His level 7 talent tier was pretty strong. Hell Rift, damage bonus reduced from 75% to 35%. And this is some new talents. Inescapable Annihilation. Globe of Annihilation now has unlimited range. So you could fire your Q from anywhere on the map. I am interested to see how well this talent performs, as Asmo's Q does have a travel time, and as someone who plays Asmo, this is a little bit difficult for me to think you'll get value from outside of potentially wave clear, because anytime I fire a Q from long range, it gives people plenty of time to walk out of it. Unless it like speeds up over time, I feel like this isn't as good as it sounds. But we'll see. Moving Pride to baseline increased to 450 stacks. Pride is always my go-to, which probably means I'll take Alt Upgrade. I mean, I'll give this talent a shot, but we'll see. But moving Pride to baseline, I mean, a lot of times I do get 400 stacks before level 20, so this will be a buff for me. I believe I can probably get to 450. However, with the changes to his stacking, it might not be as easy to get 450 stacks now. We'll have to see. Overall nerfs to Asmo. I don't feel like Asmo needed a nerf. He's not super prevalent at high ranks, but we'll have to see. But not the biggest fan of that. So here comes Deathwing changes. Attack damage decreased from 155 to 110, so nerf to Deathwing damage. Form switch. Activate ability remove. Deathwing now switches form solely from landing. So this is kind of a big change for Deathwing, as being able to switch forms on the ground was massive. Now he can only switch forms when he lands, which is interesting. We'll have to see how the rest reads. He has a Cataclysm E quest. New quest, damaging heroes with Molten Flame to gain 1 stack. Gain 50 stacks for killing a hero. Mythic reward, upon reaching 2,000 stacks, Cataclysm now deals 2,500% damage to structures and minions. I am Cataclysm. How to make a clunky hero even clunkier. True. So basically they gave him a pinnacle quest / mythic quest, whatever you want to call it, where it's going to be, I guess his E will charge up his alt, I guess, and make it do more damage. So that's going to be interesting right there. Onslaught bonus damage increased from 72 to 120. So they nerfed his attack damage, but they're increasing his abilities. Damage increased from 38 to 60. Earth Shatter, cast time reduced from 1 second to 0.75. Energy cost increased from 25 to 70. I believe this is his stun when he's in his other form. I'm feeling like this should have said R, not E, for Cataclysm. But yeah, so we'll have to see. But bonus damage increased. So for his 1 mode, it does more damage. For his stun, the cast time is reduced, costs more energy. Molten Flame Q, base damage per sound reduced from 21 to 19, so nerfed his Q. Cooldown increased from 4 to 6 seconds. Energy increased from 20 to 30. Slow increased from 12 to 16. So Incinerate W increased. Lava Burst, cast time reduced from 1 second to 0.75. Cooldown increased from 6 to 9 seconds. Energy from 15 to 25. Explosion damage increased from 30 to 35. And explosion damage over time from 6 to 7. Slow increase. So they increased the slow on a lot of his abilities, but they increased the cooldown. Nerfs the Deathwing, which I feel like aren't needed, but let's get through the rest of it. Cooldown delay after dealing or taking damage increased from 4 to 6 seconds. Cooldown reduced from 45 seconds to 15 seconds. So he can take off quicker, but obviously he needs to wait longer. So this is going to be interesting here, as it will take him longer to actually, be able to take off, but he'll be able to take off more frequently. So this is a buff to his Z at least, but we'll have to see. Dragon Soul healing increased from 75, 150 to 100 to 200% for his Dragon Soul level 1. Heat Wave damage over time increased from 6 to 9. Damage over time stacks reduced from 4 to 3, and initial damage bonus increased. So they're nerfing his baseline, but increasing his talents, it looks like. Firestorm damage increased from 70 to 77, no longer reduces the cooldown of Dragonflight. And Fire and Fury damage bonus increased from 30 to 40%. So it looks like they nerf Deathwing's baseline attack and damage of his abilities, but then kind of tried to give it back to you via talents, some of the talents at least. I feel like this is unnecessary. I don't think Deathwing is so good that he really needed a nerf. If anything, he needed a slight rework, not necessarily this. The idea being that he can cast his abilities slightly quicker in some instances, but they're not as strong, because that's what it's looking like. Some of these abilities, are going to cast quicker now, but they're going to do less damage and cost more. So I guess we'll have to see how it shakes out, but I feel like Deathwing is in a worse spot than he was before, but we'll have to wait and see. Falstad nerfed the W build. Understandable, because W is actually kind of strong. Range reduced by 0.5. Time between strikes increased from 0.8 to 0.9. Understandable. I feel like the range might be a bit substantial. I feel like this isn't as big of a deal, but the range is kind of going to be a big deal. W nerfs did need to happen. Jaina. So this one I've read. It's actually interesting. New Jaina quest, the Frostbite. Dealing damage. They basically gave Jaina a pinnacle. Dealing ability damage upon reaching 12,000 damage. Unlock Improve Ice Block, which allows her to become temporarily invulnerable. Mythic reward upon dealing 30,000 damage. Ice Block upgrades to Ice Cold, granting Jaina protected instead of stasis. So basically, instead of sitting in a stasis completely, unable to cast anything, you can be protected for that amount of time and still do damage. It's obviously a buff. It makes her quest very, very strong. The only real thing because I don't think protected clears poison, whereas stasis does clear poison. I do feel like it is a big buff. I feel like does make her really strong. The only thing to note is that I believe it will not clear poison. Correct me if I'm wrong on that. No matter what, I still think it is a massive advantage for her. I don't think Jaina necessarily needed a buff, but she's always been in kind of a steady place. So I don't think this is bad for her. I really like this. Pick either say, oh yeah, give you an option to pick stasis or protected, Leonhard. I do actually like that idea. Might as well give players the option, because stasis does have its place, being able to clear stuff. But I do like this. Ice Lance cooldown reduced from 1.5 seconds to 2 seconds. Oh, on this, I could see this playing out, and then Blizzard seeing how players react. If there's a lot of instances where players are like, I would rather keep stasis or have the option, maybe an activatable that counts both, because this could be what you could do. Have her still have Ice Block, but gain protected, and have them share the same cooldown. You hit one or the other to get one or the other, and they share the same cooldown. I could see them doing that in the future if it becomes a thing. That would be my fix for that, is give players the option. I get it. Yeah, and that would be a good idea. You're not really losing too much if you do that. Yeah, both with shared cooldown would be perfect. Ice Lance cooldown reduction increased from 0.5 seconds to 2 seconds, which is what I use with Q build. Numbing Blast stun duration reduced from 1 second to 0.75. I feel like this is a typo because it's a root. It's not a stun, unless they're changing her to a stun, which I don't think it's the case. I'm pretty sure this is a typo and it's supposed to say root because Numbing Blast is a root, I'm pretty sure. Winter Mute, water elemental cast range and damage bonus decreased from 50 to 40%. Basically nerfing to water elemental. Water elemental is pretty strong. Do I think she needed a nerf? Not really. Basically, this tier is about giving her this, or this Jaina is about giving her this. Kael'thas, convection, they're buffing convection. Increase damage, reward damage health from 150 to 200. So it does 200 more damage and gives you 100 more health each tier, which is good. I mean, do I need to start picking convection and giving it a shot? We'll see. So Muradin is interesting. I am very interested to see how this plays out. Perfect Storm removed. New quest, basic attack heroes affected by slows and stuns. Slows provide 1 stack, stun provides 2 stacks. So every slow gives you 1 stack, or is it basic attacking heroes? Or if I stun them, I get 2 stacks. At 35 stacks, Stormbolt pierces to hit an additional target. So that means if I stun 34 divided by 2, which is, I'm doing math while live, like 15. 17. I get to start piercing an additional target, which also will increase stacks, I assume. So if I pierce birth of offlane Muradin, because I've read the rest, that actually can happen. So pierce to hit an additional player, which I assume will continue to give stacks. That means if you stun 2, you get 4 stacks. And then Muradin basic attack reduces the cooldown of Stormbolt by 0.5 seconds. Massive. His mythic reward, at 150 stacks, Stormbolt range is increased by 50%. Width is increased by 100%, which means he's got a massive hammer now, and now pierces all targets. As Nord just said, the birth of offlane Muradin. Because of one talent, you're going to see Sledgehammer. So anyway, this is interesting right here. We'll have to see what happens. I'm very excited. Dwarf block charges reduced from 4 to 3. I get it. Block strong. Give him the axe, move from 7 to 1. That's his. If they're disabled, then they take more damage. Makes sense. Sledgehammer no longer increases Stormbolt cooldown reduction. That's fine. It's baked in here now. Now increases Stormbolt damage to non-heroes by 500%. The amount of wave clear that this is going to give him in camp is insane. Being able to do 500% more damage. I think it's just 100 or 200 now. I forget what it is off the top of my head. This is massive. Perfect Storm. I guess they got rid of Perfect Storm and then remade it. So Perfect Storm, if an enemy is hit with Stormbolt, dies within 3 seconds, cooldown is reset. So at level 7, if you pick Perfect Storm, and you kill someone with Stormbolt, it's going to reset the cooldown of Stormbolt, basically giving you a stun machine in Muradin. This is insane. Dwarf launch range bonus reduced from 40 to 30%. He can't jump as far. This is huge. This is a massive buff to Muradin. Do I think he needed the buff? Probably not. But this is going to be interesting to see how Muradin plays out. Very excited for that. Murky. Murky now gains a 35% shield for 10 seconds upon reviving. To die at one time? Yeah, for resets. That'll be perfect. Yeah, you'll be able to angle. There'll be some crazy angles with Muradin. Murky now gains 35% shield for 10 seconds upon reviving, which is awesome. Spawn egg. Egg now regenerates quickly instead of having a shield, so it just respawns quickly. We haven't got to the part where he has... some interesting new talents for Murky. All right. Slime now applies this debuff to enemy structures, which means that you can stack off structures now, which is good for me who can't stack off players. Now deals 50% damage to structures. Makes sense, but you can still stack off structures. Pufferfish damage reduced by 20%. That's going to make it even harder for me to wave clear. Detonation time reduced from 3 seconds to 0.275. Blows up faster. Now there's a new mythic reward quest for the pufferfish. Hitting enemies affected by slime with pufferfish provide 1 stack per minion, 5 stacks per hero or structure hit. At 100 stacks, basic abilities now deal full damage to structures. which is pretty huge. Mythic at 200 stacks, Murky gains 50% health and increases its size. So basically he gets Big Kahuna if he finishes this level, this W quest, which is insane. It's going to be harder to stack it with the 20% reduction, but now obviously there's ways to get that damage back. I wonder if it's going to incentivize going slime build more than the build I go now. Enemy core is instantly deleted. You win the video game. Interesting change. I'm excited to try it out. Egg Hunt removed, and they added a new talent, Shell Game, to Murky. Murky can now place 2 eggs, but randomly revives for one of them. Increases the cooldown of placing an egg to 30 seconds and goes off cooldown if either egg dies. So that means you have 2 eggs that you randomly spawn from if you die. And it's going to be very interesting. I mean, you could put one top, one bottom, and that keeps them relatively safe. And then if one dies, you have to wait 30 seconds before you can place it again. Makes sense. I don't know if this will be a go-to talent over Bribe, but it is an interesting talent and does give Murky a lot of annoying aspects. So I'm very interested to see how this goes. March of Murloc's damage increased by 4%. Maybe that's not a big deal. Maybe that scales over time. 100% Bribe. I will probably still take Bribe as well. Is getting some, Murky getting buffs. Fish tank damage reduced or healing reduced from 25% to 20. I didn't really take this anyway because I took the bubble. Wrath of Cod damage over time reduced from 5 seconds to 4 seconds. Basically, this is a percent damage on your W, which is exploding faster now. And it just makes the damage tick harder. Essentially, it's the same amount of damage, but it ticks harder. I don't think it's still worthwhile. I feel like this needs to be more instant, but maybe it'll make it slightly better. I feel like this isn't still going to be pickable. But maybe with the changes to structures and the way damage is working, maybe I could see it working with like the W build doing damage to structures now. Oh, let me close that before I get some sort of weird thing happening on stream. All right. Sorry, I forgot I have things synced up. But anyway, where was I? Wrath of Cod, damage over time reduced. So we'll see how that plays out. Big Tuna Kahuna talent removed, of course. That does make sense, obviously, with them baking it into his baseline W. Faster Fish. This is going to be an interesting talent. Now, here's the thing. Does that talent... let me read it first. Pufferfish detonates 80% faster. This is a question for Nor, who's like a Murky expert. Will this make Wrath of Cod viable? This level 20. I could see detonating 80% faster with percent damage could be good. It might not. But that is going to be my question. And is this going to be the go-to? Because you would used to go Big Tuna Kahuna. I would take Octograb upgrade, even though I know it's not necessarily good. But it's interesting. Cooldown reduction reduced from 2 seconds to 1.5 seconds for making Inky. No longer deals reduced damage to structures. So never-ending Murloc's better. Too much opportunity cost. They should be combined talent at 20. I could see that. Now, that would be good. I could see that if you combine these at 20. And maybe that'll eventually happen. Maybe if I say it out loud, combined Wrath of Cod and Faster Fish together. But Murky getting some buffs. I'm very interested to see how he plays out. I'm very interested to see how well I can stack this and if slime build is going to be the way to go. I mean, still with Bribe at 1, but slime build. All right, Sylvanas. Just Sylvanas. Merc Queen now also applies Sylvanic basic attacks to instantly apply 3 stacks of Black Arrow to Mercs. So slight buff to Sylvanas. Yeah, not bad. Merc Queen. Thrall basic attack damage, and of course we knew this was coming. Basic attack damage decreased from 173 to 167. Crash Lightning mythic damage bonus increased from 270 to 325. Obviously, we know the auto attack on Thrall was good, so instead of nerfing that auto attack talent, they opted to buff the rest of them, which is interesting. So Crash Lightning Mythic Reward increased from 270 to 325. And Echo of the Elements, this is something Nor actually talked about. Mythic Reward now also allows Chain Lightning to bounce back to the same target. Will they make these more competitive? We'll see. Obviously, nerf. I guess this is a nerf to his auto attack talent by nerfing his basic attack damage. In a sense, this does kind of nerf that. And then they buff these as well. So change the Thrall there. But yeah, if there was a CDR component to Puffer, I could see that. But instead, they nerfed the baseline damage, making even tougher fish worse. Yeah. All right, Tyrande, another interesting change. Mana reduced from 50 to 450. Lunar Flare quest now. So now Lunar Flare has a mythic quest. I know Starchild was talking about this in Discord. Hitting a hero with Lunar Flare increases its damage by 5% up to 250%. That's pretty massive. After hitting 10 heroes, increase Lunar Flare's range by 30%. After hitting 20 heroes, Sentinel now pierces the first hero hit. Mythic Reward after hitting 50 heroes, which is almost impossible to hit that many in my opinion. Tyrande basic attacks occasionally trigger a Lunar Flare. So very interesting changes to that. Reach that 50 hits every 100 games. Yeah, I feel like this is harder. Now restores 25 mana per enemy hit. I mean, that's pretty cool. But yeah, I mean, you get the range, but there's no like CDR aspect yet. I guess I haven't read through everything. I rarely see the Lunar Flare quest stack to anything substantial. I don't see the Mythic Reward. This has got to be one of the harder ones to achieve, unless there's parts of the talents that help it out. I don't see this being very viable. And even the basic attacks causing random Lunar Flares, that is good. Obviously, that can be really annoying and but it is very RNG. And having you require 50 Lunar Flare hits to get an RNG ability, I do not see as very good. So I'm not a big fan of this on the overall cost that it takes. Maybe if they put it at like 30 or 35 or something, but at the overall, and maybe it'll drop before the patch goes live, but going from 30 to, going to 50 to get an RNG ability that may or may not hit something useful does not seem worth it to me. But let's see what the rest says. So level 1 Moonlit Arrows, it is baseline now, which is good. Which in turn is not bad. It being baseline is definitely good. It just seems like this is a bit of a stretch for Tyrande players. And not, I feel like it should be like 35 or something maybe. Moonlight Arrows cooldown reduced from 0.75 seconds to 0.5. Move talent from level 7 to 1. I think this is the CDR on Q. Correct me if I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong on that. I don't play Tyrande. True Aura Shot no longer passively increases damage. Now also applies to Tyrande upon activation. Force Mirth with that 50 hits. They might be. Loon's Gift new grants 20% spell power for 10 seconds after hitting an enemy with Lunar Flare. So that's an additional buff to this. If you're hitting them, you're gaining spell power, which is going to help with healing. But again, it's not easy to hit. Level 20. I remember Star mentioning this. Commander of Sentinels. Sentinels now has an additional charge. You're going to be firing off owls all over the map. And you get the Pierce. So this could be an interesting talent. Is it worth level 20? I don't know. I feel like this is more niche. Like the owl, they kind of gutted owl build years ago. So I feel like it's not really that useful. But overall, thoughts on the patch. I do like the patch. I feel like there's a lot of nerfs in this patch that aren't necessary. The Deathwing nerfs, I don't really see. I'm excited for the Muradin changes. The Tyrande will be interesting. I'm not a fan of Azmo, but I do understand why they're doing it because split push Azmo, at low ranks can be a bit annoying. So there's some changes around that, but I feel like maybe they just buff split push Azmo a little more. So I'm not the biggest fan. Like I said, Azmo changes, not the biggest fan of. Deathwing changes, I feel like aren't necessary, but I think the overall idea is that they make his abilities cast faster and bake his damage more into the talents. Would make him better. Only time will tell with that. I'm worried that they made Deathwing worse from a spot he wasn't already great in. Falstad nerfs, obviously I like. Jaina, I do like the Jaina changes. Kael'thas, obviously, I like those changes as well. Muradin, I do really like. Murky, I do really like as well. So overall, I guess I do like the patch. They did target the things that needed to be targeted. So my overall thoughts on the patch, I guess they are good. They did nerf the characters that needed to be nerfed, but they also nerfed some characters that maybe didn't need to be nerfed. The Muradin changes I like. Murky changes are going to be good. I don't know if we'll see Murky at higher ranks. Obviously, the Volskaya changes, we are going to see Volskaya back in ranked at some point in time. I'm sure of it. But overall, I mean, I like the patch. As I've said before with Blizzard and the way patches work, just a couple years ago, we went from getting a large amount of small changes that weren't really that effective, that weren't really that impactful on the meta, to getting a small amount of large changes that have added up over time. So in a way, this is good. This is exactly what we want for the game. Not all the changes are going to be good. Make sure you guys do voice your opinions, to Blizzard on what you like and what you don't like. That's the only way we're ever going to see changes. A lot of these changes are things we've talked about on stream. The Chain Lightning changes, for example, on Thrall, that's something we have discussed on stream, and now it's happening. So they are listening to streamers. They are listening to players. So if you don't like something, speak up about it. Nothing wrong with that. So I do appreciate you guys checking me out here. Again, make sure that you guys do check out my Twitch stream. I will post a link to that down below in the description. This video was a lot longer than I thought it would be, but you know what? We covered a lot of good things in here. Check out my Twitch stream. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe on this video. Check out my other videos as well. But thank you guys very much for watching this video, and I will see you guys next time. Have a good night, everybody.